Hello, I'm Lauren with IndoorGardening.com, and today we want to talk about the easiest ferns to grow as houseplants and the ones to avoid. Ferns are known to be really difficult plants. They're known to be incredibly hard to grow. They're known to be picky and diva plants and absolutely horrible houseplants. The absolute nightmare of all plants. Don't ever get a fern is what they will tell you. But what's really happening is they're getting the wrong ferns. We have a list today of easy ferns for you, especially if you live in a higher humidity environment. These ferns are very, very easy care ferns. Some of them even like to dry out. I know, it's crazy because you always hear with the fern care guides out there, never let the fern dry out, never let it touch sunlight, have it hidden in the dark corner, recesses of your room, it's a no light plant. None of these things are true for all ferns. Ferns have been around since the dawn of the dinosaurs. They literally survived an extinction level event. They are epic hardcore plants, and there are definitely some that can handle being inside a home, and we're going to talk about those today. First up is the lemon button fern. These are freaking cute. These are the most adorable plants ever. Not a button fern, because those ones are high humidity terrarium plants, but a lemon button fern looks very different from a button fern. They do have thinner circular foliage, almost like scalloped edges on their fronds. It's really, really super cute. And they don't need a higher humidity. They just like to be watered quite a bit. So as long as you let them be in a cache pot or you let them sit in a little saucer of water, they are good to go. Next is an astral gem fern. This actually looks very similar to a lot of the very lacy ferns that you'll see out in the wild, but the astral gem fern is actually more succulent than most of them. For example, if you felt a Boston fern, astral gem fern is almost 3 times the thickness of that. They just hold on to so much more water. They're very juicy plants. They look delicate because they have little scalloped edges at the end of their fronds, and they're just super cute as far as that goes, like little ruffles and whatnot. Very, very fun to watch unfurl as well. They look almost alien-esque when they're unfurling, but they're very thick for a fern. And because they can hold on to this extra water, that means that they can go longer without being watered. You can actually let this fern dry out. They can handle higher light because they have more moisture in their foliage. And if they start to burn, you'll notice that just the edges at the tips are going to crisp up a little bit. You just trim those off and move it to lower light. It recovers just fine. And even if you let it dry out quite a bit and it's kind of wilted over and all sad, it's like a Fittonia. You give it some water, it perks right back up just fine, like nothing ever happened. It's absolutely amazing. The rabbit's foot fern, some people say they look like spider legs, some people say they look like rabbit's feet. They're little teeny tiny brown rhizomes, which are above ground roots. They soak up moisture and they help prevent the plant from drying out too much. They also have the little hairs on them to trap that moisture and nutrients in there. So that's why this plant is actually a more hardy version of a fern and can tolerate so much, because the rhizomes will actually hold on to quite a bit of moisture. You can let this fern dry out too. It will start to drop its very delicate, thin foliage if you let it dry out too much. It does like a little bit of a higher humidity, 40% or higher generally, because their foliage is very thin, but they can dry out quite a bit because those rhizomes will hold on to that water. So they're not a high maintenance fern. And if you notice that all the foliage dies off because you neglected it too much, the rhizomes are still there. As long as they're not rotted or like dried out and crumbly, they will come back. Just keep giving it water like normal and give it a little bit more light. Good to go. Another one similar to the rabbit's foot fern is a blue star fern, also known as a bear paw fern. They have these little teeny tiny fuzzy orange rhizomes at the base. They're orange and white, and then they have these beautiful blue leaves. They will actually change the shape of their foliage as they mature, and they'll start to add extra little bits on their fronds, and it's just really, really cool to see. If you're into philodendron because you like the way the foliage changes as it matures, then you will like a blue star fern as well. This next one is a really cool fern. You've probably seen it, you've probably heard about it quite a bit, and it was probably an intimidating idea, especially if you've been warned off of ferns multiple times in a row. Staghorn ferns. Staghorn ferns are the number one easiest fern out there. They can dry out. They do not need water that often. They do not need high humidity. They grow quicker in high humidity, but they don't need it. I know people in deserts that are growing this fern. It is incredible. They are an epiphytic fern, so they like to draw in the nutrients around them. They do not need to stay in a pot. You can actually mount them on a board and hang them on your wall. They grow on trees in tropical areas. So places like Florida where it's warm and humid, they'll actually grow under the foliage and up against the trees, the trunk of the tree, and it is incredible to see. They can get massive. There are so many different kinds of staghorn ferns out there as well. They're definitely really, really amazing ferns. They don't need a lot of care. You can give them brighter light. They're used to tropical Florida light, and you can just let them kind of relax and enjoy their place in your home wherever you decide to put them. They can handle low light or high light. They can handle water or no water. They can handle being on a wall, or they can handle being in a pot. They are the number one most easiest ferns. So if you are just getting into ferns and you need to know what plant am I not going to kill, it's this one. When the fronds feel really soft and all droopy, kind of like a puppy dog ear, that's when you're going to start to lose the plant. It's probably been about a month and a half since you've watered it at that point. So give it a little bit of water. Now, I know you were waiting for the ferns to avoid. What ferns are you to stay away from? Because they will be absolutely horrific and are sure to die in a beginner fern parent's care. Maidenhair ferns. Any fern with very thin stems, very thin foliage, no rhizomes, and they are not an epiphytic fern, it's not going to make it. It is going to struggle. It's going to need higher humidity, like 60% or higher, in order to be happy. It's going to be picky about its light needs. It's going to be picky about its temperature needs. They're just going to be very, very particular in everything. They are the pickiest of plants, which is why maidenhairs come at number one for most hated fern ever. They're totally worth the time and effort. They're just very, very difficult to take care of for beginner plant parents and for beginner fern parents specifically as well. Hopefully this made ferns a little less scary and intimidating. Hopefully this gives you some ideas of ferns to try in the future and enables you to give them a chance. They're absolutely incredible plants. They can do a lot of things. It's not a one-size-fits-all out there like we've been led to believe. There are definitely a variety of ferns out there. One fern for every person in every type of condition for sure. Hopefully this makes you as excited about ferns as we are, and hopefully this helps you avoid any ferns that are going to be just too difficult for you and enables you to have realistic expectations and realistic care for the specific ferns that you get. Be sure to leave a comment down below which fern that you're getting, and check out indoorgardening.com for more information. We're always happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!